Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going back in time to review a company that invested about $500 million in Palantir back in 2020 and is an exciting partner for a company like Palantir. And that company's name is Sompo Holdings. Now, why is Sompo exciting? The Financial Times did a piece on them today. Care homes in Japan use big data to boost caregivers and lighten workloads. Sompo is one of Japan's largest insurance companies, and they have their fingers kind of everywhere. They struck a deal with Palantir, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and they've been working with them ever since. Palantir has a really good relationship in Japan. I don't know how good their Japan penetration is in terms of the commercial space, but that is one of the places where they have an entire office, I believe in Tokyo, and Japan is one of those big markets for Palantir, hopefully for in the future, that they can be able to capitalize. In this video, I want to go over what is the relationship between Sompo and Palantir, because this is one of the partnerships that doesn't get talked about enough. The Financial Times did an article about it today, so I thought it would be interesting to review that. And it's also interesting to see how big data, in the context of what Palantir is doing through data analytics and AI, can really be utilized in a variety of use cases that are so different than what we've heard about so far. And I think Sompo gives a good example of it. So let's get through this article and then we'll talk a little bit more about the relationship. As a country characterized by low birth rates and the world's oldest population, with 30% age 65 or above, which is insane. 30% of your population age 65 or above, and people living well into their hundreds, is pretty phenomenal for Japan. Japan has long faced the challenge of finding carers for a rising proportion of elderly people. But its care industry is still struggling with chronic staff shortages. Nearly 690,000 additional nurses will be required by 2040 to meet the demand, says the health ministry. Last year, 63% of care homes reported a shortage in caregivers, an increase of the 61% from a year before, according to a survey from the Care Work Foundation. So, Sompo Holdings, one of Japan's biggest insurance companies and the operator of about 280 care homes across the country, has turned to technology to address the problem, which is going to be a trend over the next 2 decades of what technology is going to be able to do. Takako Kojima, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, a care manager at one of its Tokyo nursing homes, said that the new methods of analyzing data are helping to reduce workloads and tailor care provision. This home, which cares for 60 residents, last year equipped all of its beds with sensors that measure body movements, breathing, and heart rates to assess sleep conditions. And we're going to watch a video kind of showcasing this. It is absolutely insane. This enables caregivers to give a new tool to predict when residents might need support during the night. It has allowed Kojima and colleagues to better plan staff assignments and improve efficiency. The success has been a big turning point for us to rely on data analytics, she says. It means she can dedicate 2 to 3 hours a day to communicating with residents instead of having to handle paperwork or conduct unnecessary patrols. Kojima now has more time to accommodate residents' requests, such as a trip to a nearby park or their favorite eel restaurant. It also says, I had thought giving custom-made care to individuals was very challenging given our workload, but I feel I'm doing close to what I've imagined as ideal care. Sompo's new process are the result of a tie-up with Palantir, the U.S. specialist in big data analysis, in which the insurer invested $500 million in 2020. The companies have developed a software platform that combines artificial intelligence and analytics with proprietary data on areas including sleep, diet, medical treatment, and exercise. The video we watch is going to give an example of what this looks like in the real world, but one of the unique things is I think the AIP platform is going to be upsold to Sompo primarily because a lot of what the nurses use the data analytics to be able to understand in Foundry is how much is this client sleeping? How much is this patient taking their medicine? Have they missed their medicine? Why are they sleeping longer if they've taken their medicine in a certain rate? All of this, I think, could be answered through a large language model via AIP. So it'd be really interesting to see kind of how Palantir potentially upsells them on that. Sompo says that by deploying this technology, the workload in a typical 60-person capacity care home can be reduced by 15%, which translates into a cost savings worth $60,000 a year. The data allows caregivers to give accurate predictions on health conditions such as dementia or mobility problems, from which they can create nursing plans to reduce risk in such diseases instead of dealing with them only when symptoms appear, which is the core value of Palantir, right? The predictive analytics, the simulations you can do that allows you to understand what happens and what doesn't happen really changes the trajectory of how a company can make decisions. And more importantly, how you can save lives based on those decisions. Because if you can't save lives based on those decisions, then in a place that manages people who are old, who, need to be preserved and taken care of, then there is zero value to it. And it seems like that's where the core value prop of Palantir ultimately comes into. In April, Sompo started selling its software platform to other companies and expects to have signed up 100 Japanese care providers in the fiscal year to March 2024. And that software platform is what they built in combination with Palantir. Let's go here. Using big data to predict health outcomes can improve the quality of care and allow people to focus on what they can actually do, he argues. But he insists that any efficiencies also need to result in improved workplace conditions to motivate employees and to raise the social status of caregivers. Let's get into the actual video where they talk about it. I mean, this was a pretty phenomenal video. This came out a year ago. I covered it a long time ago, but it builds a little bit more understanding of how Palantir software is used in so many different use cases and what it can do to actually, save lives along with make money for a company like Sompo.
日本は世界で随一の健康長寿社会です。一方で人口減少の中で急速に進む少子高齢化は介護が必要な高齢者の増加とそれを支える労働人口の減少という深刻な課題に直面しています。課題先進国と言えます。さまざまな業務システムや先進の技術を導入してまいりましたが、データの活用という観点ではシステムごとにデータが分散しているという課題に直面。
So as he's saying, the data is siloed, not fully utilized. We didn't have this sort of core ontology, foundation of truth, where we could understand what to do with the data. That is a problem that a lot of businesses are facing, and a nursing home is no exception to that problem.
しました。その時にファウンドリーと出会っています。
具体的には全体の業務の中の 20% ぐらいの業務改善が達成できたんじゃないかなというふうに思っております。1年後にはですね、50施設ぐらいの施設に導入ができるようにというふうに動いておりまして、私どもが一番最初に取り組みたかったこと、達成したかったことは、私どもが保有するリアルなデータ、例えば介護記録であったりとか、食事のデータであったりとか、服薬の記録であったりとか、こういったものが、いろいろなシステムに、バラバラに今保管されている。それを一つにまとめる、そして見える化するということがまず最初にやりたかったことでございます。
施設長としましては、これまで算出されていたデータが、ファンドリーによって一つにまとまりまして、多くの利用者様の状況を私自ら確認することができまして、介護士へ適切な指示を出すことが可能となっております。
And see, this is really important because when they're getting the analytics on every single patient that exists within the software, they're able to see in real time the changes they need to make and the things they need to do in order to care for those people. And that is where I think the sort of core value proposition in a place like a nursing home is for Palantir, and they're going to go deeper into it right now.
これまでケアプランの内容を見直すためには必要な情報を集めるだけで30分から1時間程度時間を要していました。しかし、ファウンドリーを導入するようになってからは、すべてのデータが投稿され、一つの画面で見れるようになったため、入居者様の情報を把握することが早くなり、次に取るべきアクションが一目で分かるようになりました。
施設では今、利用者様のベッドの下に睡眠時間、呼吸数、脈拍を計測できるセンサーがついております。そのセンサーとファンドリーを統合して数日経った頃、利用者様の睡眠時間が平均10時間から16時間に増えていること、これがファンドリーの使用によって分かることができました。
So they find with the sensors underneath the bed in combination with the data ingestion platform that's taking the data from those sensors, which is Foundry, that someone's sleeping time went from 10 hours to 16 hours. And the question is why? Because you're not supposed to be sleeping that long.
こちら原因の方を医師に確認したんですが、医師の方では特定できず、ファンドリーを活用しまして、睡眠時間が増えてきた頃、お薬の追加がございました。お薬の調整を医師に相談して元に戻していただいたところ、利用者様の平均時間である10時間に戻ることができました。
Boom! Right? You were able to see what was the reason for why the increase in sleep happened. You realized it was too much medicine, decrease the dosage, sleep goes back to normal. And that's because you have the data to be able to make those decisions, and that results in life or death for a patient. And that's where, and now this is one nursing home. They wanted to get to 50 nursing homes a year ago. You can imagine they want to get to 150, 200 different nursing homes throughout the next year. And that's just Japan. You could imagine that software being used across every nursing home in every part of the world. I mean, this is really the value of something like a Palantir if it can scale everywhere.
この技術があれば、損保ケアだけではなく、複数の介護事業者のデータをつないで、さらに高度なデータ解析をして、大きな付加価値を生み出していくことが期待できます。私たち介護事業では、まさに高齢者が笑顔で その人らしい健やかな日々を送られる、そういったことを全力で支えていきたいと、そのように考えております。損保グループはそんな社会づくりに貢献をしていきたいと思っております。
All right, there you go. So, when I look at something like that, it's just really interesting to reflect on where the software is being used, how the software is being utilized, and all the different places where the software can be better optimized and used. Japan is a massive, massive market for Palantir, and I think they barely penetrated. I think the reason we were profitable was because of some step acquisition we did for $44 million in Q4 of 2022, which is where we got that gap profitability. Q1 of 2023, we actually got some. What did we get? We got some actual income from operations, $4 million, which is why we were actually, profitable in a more realistic sense. So, Japan's been a big market for us. We've worked in Japan for a long time. You could argue that what we're doing in South Korea in terms of building platforms for the shipyard manufacturing industry, we're doing the same for the healthcare industry in Japan, at least for a unique country that has a elderly population that's rising that specifically needs the data-driven decision-making capabilities to actually be able to make sure that those elderly people are safe, given 30% of the population. I mean, that's 1/3 of your population is 65 or older. So Japan has to figure out how to deal with that, right? And that's unique to Japan, and there's other countries that have other different issues with their population. How do you deal with these issues in a way that actually increases the efficiency of solving the problems and decreases any negative downsides you would have as a result of the unique problems that affect your company or country? And a company like Palantir could be utilized in a variety of those situations. So Sompo Holdings seems interesting that Financial Times did a piece on them, mentioned Palantir. Company's only growing. Sompo is one of the biggest companies in Japan. I don't know how much they still own Palantir. I think they have a significant stake. I don't know if they sold off any of their position. I'm assuming they sold, over the past couple of years, at least something out of the $500 million they invested. But I believe they are still one of the larger shareholders of Palantir, and you could imagine that they increase their allocation size eventually as Palantir keeps showing progress. So those are my thoughts on Sompo, Japan, and Palantir. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.